Hello everybody, this is Bradley Grunner, and today I want to make a video on my diet. There's a loyal subscriber of mine, even though I don't have that many subscribers so far for a YouTube channel. Right now, as I speak, I'm about 205 subscribers, but I am thankful for everybody who has subscribed so far, and everybody who has shared their feedback from my personal videos, the interviews with Arash, as well as the podcast with Stu and Arash. Be sure to check out our last podcast that Stu and I made called Wizards and Gurus. The Shreds debacle, the Shreds and Jason Bleha debacle podcast has gotten a ton of comments and a ton of traffic. A ton of traffic for me, that is. Certainly not a million hits, but I enjoyed the feedback on it. I enjoyed all the comments, the information shared, the constructive criticism shared, and I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. So far, it's our biggest hit for our Mass Macros podcast, and we intend to come up with more podcasts regularly, probably once every 2 weeks, so stay tuned to the channel. And if you have not subscribed, be sure to subscribe so that you can be informed of when a new podcast comes up. And today, as I said before, I want to address a post from a loyal subscriber. As I said, I don't have that many subscribers, but there happen to be two of them. It's Dave. They are Dave and Jeremy, who have provided a number of posts under my videos and compliments as well, so I thank you too. This video is for Dave. Jeremy gave me the idea to make the video, but it's for all you guys, obviously. Excuse me. So Jeremy asked a question, or proposed the idea, rather, of explaining my diet for muscle maintenance, muscle gaining, and fat loss. Right now I'm prepping for a show. Well, rather, I plan on doing two natural shows in the fall, if everything goes well. And there's also a third show cluster within that time frame. I don't know if someone could really do 3 shows within the course of 2 months, but hey, if I'm in shape and I can hold it, I wouldn't mind it. These are going to be my first shows. And who knows, maybe my last shows. And that's where I'm going to explain this whole bodybuilding hobby to as I discuss my dieting practices, and you'll see how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to discuss this. I have been bodybuilding, with the, we could call it bodybuilding because I've been building my body for some time. And within that time, there were some low and high points where sometimes I liked this hobby, sometimes I didn't like this hobby, sometimes life got in the way. I always had an overreaching love for the hobby, and I've been following bodybuilding for a very long time. I've been following it ever since, I've been following it even before I went to the gym, actually. I was already picking up bodybuilding magazines and loved watching it on TV. Actually, ESPN used to have NPC bodybuilding on the actual channel on TV, and I remember those days. I was really young, maybe 12 years old or 11 years old. 13, around that time in the early 90s. I remember guys like Craig Titus, Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier. Who else was there? Phil Hernon, Chris Duffy. These guys were amazing, and they were on TV, and we just don't get that on mainstream television these days. But it was a good time, and ever since then, I always knew that I was never going to be an IFBB pro, but I just loved watching it, loved being in the gym, loved the concept of having a nice aesthetic physique and keeping physically fit. But I never got around to entering a show. I never got to enjoy this bucket list item because it just seemed like, just life got in the way. Just, you have your schooling, you want to look for a job, then you're socializing, you're looking for a partner, you're going on dates, you're doing this, you're doing that. And I believe that bodybuilding really is a peculiar hobby, not in a bad way, but it's a peculiar hobby in a sense that it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of your life. Meaning, I think the best way to do it for a person, knowing that they will not earn a living from bodybuilding, is to have certain things set up to finally come to this point where you say, hey, you know what? I got everything taken care of. I'm at a point where my life is fairly balanced, and now I can indulge and have some fun and enter a show. At least that's what I'm doing. I'm at a point where I'm fairly satisfied with my social life. I am married. I love my wife. I love my in-laws. I love my family. I got, as I said, a pretty robust social life. I have friends that care about me. So I figured, hey, this will be a time I'll scratch this off the bucket list, and I'll enjoy 2 shows. I'll see what happens, and that's it. Maybe one day when I'm older, when I'm let's say in my mid-40s and I have a kid that's grown up already, well, grown up to a degree, and I'm no longer taking care of babies, I'll say, hey, you know what, I'll do another master show. But for now, scratching this off the bucket list, folks, and continue my profession as an RD, which kind of like, ties into this whole thing, my interest in nutrition. I do have a 40-hour work week where I work at a skilled nursing facility as an RD. You all know that if you've been following the channel. So let's get into the general topic. Jeremy, as you asked, what's the difference between my maintenance off-season and contest prep diet? Well, I guess I've never really had an off-season. I wouldn't call it an off-season because I wasn't competing regularly. But for the sake of it, let's say my lifestyle diet was an off-season diet, because that's what an off-season diet should be for most people, a lifestyle diet. I don't expect people except for the very top pros who have this really nomad existence where they can track every morsel going into their mouth. I am all for regulating your food intake while you're gaining muscle. You certainly don't want to gain fat. You certainly don't want to shortchange yourself by eating too little. But I was, for years doing well with portion control. And what I mean by portion control is like, let's say you come to this point where you want to gain muscle or you want to maintain or you got to cut your body fat a little. Not necessarily cut your body fat in a contest prep way, but you gain too much fat, you're getting a little chubby, you got to back off. So I really just use the portion control method, making sure I have enough protein and carbs and fats. And really, I just really, we use, let's say, certain objects to gauge how much I was eating. For example, I like the way John Berardi sets his portion control with his precision nutrition system up for his clients, and I suggest that most people do this actually and head over to the precisionnutrition.com website and look up their portion control methods. It's very useful for someone who does not want to count every morsel while they're just trying to pack on muscle or just function as an athlete or just to be healthy, actually. Just to control your weight as a person who just wants to be fit and healthy. So Berardi recommends that you have your 3 to 4 meals per day, and you would measure your protein. You'd have 2 protein portions at each meal, whether it's 3 or 4 meals, and that would be the size of your palm. And how thick it is, maybe ½ inch to an inch thick of the protein item you're eating. That's really how I gauged it, or I would gauge it, let's say, on how much protein I need. For example, I weigh in the low 200s usually, semi-chubby, a little soft, certainly not fat by any standards, but I weigh in the low 200s usually when I was, over the few years that I've been trying to gain muscle. So I'd want about 200 grams of protein. I mean, I didn't need that much. I mean, 180 would settle because it wasn't all muscle. I wasn't 200 pounds of solid muscle, and I think that the protein needs are vastly overrated and that you don't need so much protein to grow. But, a little extra wouldn't be a problem as long as you're not really surpassing your caloric amount for gaining or maintenance by so much. So let's say, I know, probably that an ounce of protein has 7 grams. No, an ounce of a protein item usually has 7 grams of protein in it. I mean, maybe for a whitefish like tilapia, it might have a little less. It might have 5 grams per ounce. But generally, that's the way it goes. So let's say I wanted 50 grams in a sitting. 50 grams would be about 7 or 8 ounces of protein. So 7 or 8 ounces of protein. Once you measure on a scale, you can get a general gist of what it looks like. Or you could use the portion control method of your hand. So I probably would have about two palm-sized portions of protein for my meals. In the morning, I have my eggs usually whole eggs with some very lean turkey or chicken sausage. I go to a store called North Shore Farms, and the chicken sausage from them is very lean. I would assume, most people would assume that a sausage item of any kind, whether it's pork sausage, beef sausage, pork, chicken, turkey, would be high in fat, but North Shore Farms in Queens and Long Island, the one in Glen Cove and Little Neck here, the chicken sausage is really, really dry, so it's lean. Usually I would have my eggs and chicken sausage omelet with vegetables and a sparing amount of cheese, have a starch like oatmeal or grits or cream of rice, and then probably have a fruit with that. And that ties into my carb portions. Usually the carb portions would, let's say, be, 2 fist-sized portions of carbs. That's how I would gauge the carb portions for every meal. And then with fats, just add a little bit of fat to your salads here and there, or a little bit of Usually I use just some Kerry Gold organic butter to fry my eggs in, or a sparing amount of coconut oil. Let's say for vegetables, preparing my vegetables, I wanted to saute my vegetables, use sparing amounts of olive or coconut oil for that. If I have to fry a flank steak, again, use the sparing amount of oil or a sparing amount of organic butter. And that would take care of the fat need. You don't need that much fat actually to even maintain your health. You just need a very sparing amount of fat to maintain your health and get the proper nutrient fat from fat items. Even if you were on a low-fat diet, it would almost be nearly impossible with the correct caloric amount to have a fat deficiency. So, you don't got to go crazy with your fat needs. Certainly, if you are a guy who likes a higher fat intake with your diet, certain other things will have to come down so that you could not go over your maintenance or surplus by that much, actually, so that you don't gain that much fat. And with vegetables, really, I just wing it with the vegetables. I eat as much vegetables as I want. Most of the vegetables that I eat are fibrous. Most vegetables are fibrous, actually, except for beets. Have a little starch. Carrots, too. But other vegetables have almost trace amounts of carbs and calories. Tomatoes, I know some people get finicky with these tomato things, like, oh, don't eat too much tomato. You'll gather too much sugar with so much tomatoes. Do you know how much tomatoes you would have to eat? I mean, I don't think anybody has a single salad with 2 full beefsteak tomatoes in it, but you have a whole Roma tomato in it, or half a garden tomato, or one of those vine tomatoes, or half a beefsteak tomato. You're not piling the calories of those. And a few shredded carrots in your salad is not going to do that either, or even a few slices of beets. And that's really it. Sauteed vegetables. I have vegetables in my omelets, as I said before, and that was it. So to recap, it would be my egg omelet in the morning, my oatmeal, my starchy carb, cream of rice or oatmeal, a fruit item in the morning, and then the other 3 item meals for the day would be 2 palm-sized protein portions, 2 fist-sized carb portions, whether that's rice, white rice, potatoes, any potato I would use, sweet potatoes, russet potatoes, Yukon Gold potatoes, whatever potato. Some of the Japanese yams, those purple yams, I love those. I love yuca. It's great. It's a starchy carb that most Americans don't eat much, but I happen to love yuca. And that really takes care of it. I'm a 4 meals kind of guy, 3 or 4 larger meals. I'm not one of these guys who likes to graze all day, eating bird-sized meals every 2 hours, or, as some guys take it to the extreme, having 8 meals a day. Not only is there not much of an advantage to spacing your meals out so much, besides controlling appetite for some people, but it is also highly impractical for us who cannot stop and eat every 2 hours. If that's the way you like to do things and you can do it, go ahead. It's not necessary for health. It's not so necessary for body composition. So there you have it. And also, if I was getting, let's say, a little too chubby for my liking, I would just be, I'm pretty experienced with this. I'm an RD by profession, nutrition. I went to school for nutrition. I work in nutrition, so it's fairly easy for me. But people that are not as savvy in nutrition, weigh your food out. Figure out your food, figure out your caloric intake that you want for your maintenance, fat loss goals, or muscle building goals. Weigh your food out according to those needs that you have, and eventually you will be able to eyeball your food. You will be able to portion your food out so that you do not have to go crazy with scales and measuring cups. Now, that pretty much takes care of the weight gain and maintenance goals for me as far as portion control goes. That's the way I handle things through the years. And now I'm in a contest prep for the first time in my life, so let's get into how I handle that. I have 2 pro bodybuilder friends who are giving me guidance with my diet. I mean, being that I'm pretty much nutrition savvy, I need some guidance through this because this is my first time doing a show, but I don't need so much hand-holding. I mean, my friend Stu came up with a diet for me. He's guiding me along it. Arash is giving some feedback too. Those are my 2 pro friends that have been featured on my channel. They're guiding me through it. They're going to teach me how to pose. We're going to come up with a posing routine. They're going to, they're critiquing my body as the weeks go by. But I don't need that much hand holding. Stu wrote up a nice carb cycling diet for me. And as you know, carb cycling involves high carb days, low carb days, and medium carb days. And, as Stu will attest to this, and I'll attest to this as a dietitian, is that any diet that you come up with for a contest or fat loss or even weight gain, these aims where you're going to change the body rather than maintain your composition or maintain your weight, is really a crapshoot at first. You say to yourself, well, okay, 3,000 calories is enough to maintain my weight. We'll do a slight dip in calories. We'll do a dip of it by, let's say, 250 to 300 calories. We'll do that dip in the low days, or we'll do that dip constantly, and then when we hit a wall, we'll decrease it further, and we'll implement a refeed when we have to. That's really what it is. At the first, it's just a best guess. Then the dietitian or nutritionist or contest prep coach sees what happened with that best guess, and make adjustments from there, judging by how the person is looking, or the person is feeling or performing, or in the case of, let's say, clinical dietetics, how the clinical indicators like lab values are improving. So that takes care of that with a general template. So I have a high day on my weakest body part day. And I told you my split before. My split is chest and biceps one day, next day legs, next day off, which involves interval training. I told you guys I like doing my sprints. Just today I did my 12 sets of 40-yard sprints. It's usually what I do on my off day. Come back, again, 2 more days in a row and a day off. So that would be come back, shoulders, tricep, next day back, then another day off, sprints, and it goes like that. 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. And the cardio intervals on the days off. I do abs when I can hit them. I usually hit abs on some of my cardio days and my back day. And the abs are usually trained at least twice a week. Wherever I can fit, when I want to fit them in after my back and or after my sprint. That's when I do my abs. So, as I was saying, on the chest day, because my chest, as you can see from my photos on Instagram, I'm kind of flat-chested, kind of arm-dominant, actually. Very leg and arm-dominant. My extremities, I dominate with those and kind of have a more shallow chest, actually. It's not terrible, as you can see in my Instagram photos, but, we're working on bringing that up. So my high-carb day is on my chest day, and I'm taking about 300 grams of carbs on that day, with a total caloric amount of about 2,600. And then my medium days are for my other training days. So my medium carb days, my other training days would be on my shoulder and triceps day, my back day, and my leg day. So on that day, it's about low 200s for the carbs, low to mid 200s for the carbs, and then my low day, that's about a 2,300 calorie day, and then my low day, we have about 150 grams of carbs, and the caloric intake is actually similar to the medium day. It's actually 2,300 calories as well, or somewhere around there. I don't have the sheet in front of me. That just gives you the gist of it. So, and then we have my protein. My protein picking about 220 grams of protein per day, and the rest of the calories would come from some sparing amount of fat. And that's just how it's going, really. And it's been going great. You can see my progress on Instagram. It's been about 4.5 weeks so far. And we've seen body composition changes. Even though my weight has only come down about 4 or 5 pounds. I mean, it's fluctuating. When I started out, I was about 204 pounds, 205 pounds. Especially the days of my hard carb days, I was always stuck at 205 pounds. But we're going by my lowest body weight of the week so that we can see my lowest days throughout each week is coming down. We're not really too concerned about these fluctuations because there will be fluctuations as long as the lowest number for the week for my weight is coming down. So let's say last week my lowest number was 199, and this week my lowest number was 198. So we're moving in the right direction. Now that seems like a small change, but I think that and my friends have noted that my body composition has changed drastically. And even though my clothing is fitting around my waist, my shorts and my sweatpants, and even the way even my work clothes are fitting much looser actually on my legs. I mean, I am leg dominant, but I'm probably holding fat there as well. So, I kind of had some of those jeans that were really tight on me that are actually becoming somewhat loose on me now. So we're moving in the right direction. And I really hope this answers a lot of, gives you some feedback on what I'm doing. And my foods, the foods that I eat really right now in the contest prep, it's really going by my preference. We're just fitting my preferences into the diet to meet my caloric and macro needs. And really the staples just now, the easiest way to actually control a diet is by eating few foods, but not eating so few foods that you are, kind of losing your mind, or you don't want to become nutrient deficient, but that would be very hard to become nutrient deficient if you have the appropriate caloric intake and you're eating whole foods, starches such as potatoes, yams, potatoes, yams, rice, vegetables, lean meats, eggs, egg whites, you wouldn't become nutrient deficient. Probably the only time a bodybuilder is at risk of being nutrient deficient, it would probably be in the last final stages of a prep, and that's if the prep was pretty severe. But we're not going for a severe prep. We're going for a nice 4 to 4.5 month prep so that I don't have to suffer that much. Most people don't advise short preps from what I know. I personally, by common sense, wouldn't want to go through a short prep because then you have to lose enormous amounts of weight in a short amount of time if you were just only moderately lean to start with. If you're very lean to start your prep, maybe your prep could only take 8 to 10 weeks. But a lot of guys just try to cram in all this fat loss within a short amount of time, dropping 50 pounds within 12 weeks, which is an enormous amount of fat to lose. I don't advise that. Stu doesn't advise that. Neither does Arash or anybody that knows what they're doing, actually, who wants to do this as suffering-free as possible. I mean, there will be some, probably some suffering and, trying to get through the days. It hasn't affected me yet. I'm in the early stages. I feel very well. But back to the preferences is that it's mostly eggs, egg whites. For the protein, we have some turkey bacon, poultry, either chicken or turkey, tuna, steak, that takes care of and some protein powder, actually. Then for the carbs, we're just doing oatmeal, or sometimes I sub that in with cream of rice in the morning. We'll do other carbs, just pretty much potato, yuca, and rice. All vegetables are allowed, and then, some fruits in there, apples and bananas and raisins, because I really prefer those. And then for the fats, we just are using peanut butter, the egg yolks, and avocados, because I really like those, to include those in my diet. And that's basically it. Pretty simple. I really hope that you found, an insight into what I'm doing. And I guess this was pretty much a long off season for me to address the question. Not really these repeated off-season contest prep. This might be the only contest prep ever because I really like this and I want to indulge in it a bit. But then again, there's life. And even when I'm still done with it and these contests are over, I'm still going to run this channel. Still going to cover bodybuilding. Still going to cover nutrition and dietetics because those two, that's my profession. I'm a nutritionist and a dietitian. So this channel will always be going afterwards. And I'll continue to write diets for people. And even expand upon it, not just with the sports and bodybuilding nutrition, but diets for people that have diabetes, all kinds of conditions related to nutrition, whether it's PCOS, diabetes, renal disorders, any disorder that could be managed with nutrition, I'll address it. So whether you are interested in fitness or nutrition for anything, please leave comments below, training as well. I really appreciate the comments and subscribers so far. So thanks for being with me today, and have a good day, and I'll be with you in a short time from now. Bye.